you if you ever submit any tickets. I did also want to let you know that the session is going to be recorded, but we'll go ahead and jump into it. To begin, feel free to take notes as you're going through the webinar. However, we did already take the notes for you. We offer what we call our Bright Thinker support materials. If you aren't aware of it already, this is where we hold all of our resources and training reminders. So whether you're an administrator, we do have those resources in here for you. There is a welcome package we've built that includes a full overview video covering some of the topics we're discussing today, as well as some quick PDFs or snippets of trainings. Outside of that admin resources folder, this is also where we hold any teacher resources. Very similarly, we will have a welcome package for them as well with any key topics. Outside of those resources, you can find course information like our catalog, course descriptions, standard alignment reports. We do have our scope and sequence and tech information. So if you need to whitelist or look at our system and browser requirements, I would suggest looking through that. So this is where I would recommend as a one-stop shop for anything outside of the course itself. If you're ever having trouble finding resources, at the very top, there is a search bar. This is where you can type in anything related to what you're looking for. So let's say you wanted to create a brand new user. If you type that in, that'll filter through and show you which topics and what PDFs can help you with that. If you don't already have access to your support materials, we can give you that at the end of our training. I'll send you a link for you to fill out a survey. We'll offer a certificate of completing today's webinar, and then you'll have the option to receive those support materials credentials. So let's jump into the course types. So will have access to a few different courses. We offer a regular version of our courses, a KA version, stands for knowledge assessment, and then we also offer accommodated or ACCOM. I did pull up a K-2 example of our regular course to show you how that will differ from our older grade levels. But we do have a getting started folder at the very top of each course. This will have a student orientation, interactive for students that are brand new to Bright Thinker. It also will have required materials, supplies, or readers that may be needed throughout the year. For teachers in K-2 specific, they do offer teacher guides. And within these, they will have a breakdown of the activities. They will also offer additional supplemental activities that you can add into your courses. As far as the supply list goes, we do list all of the supplies at the very top, but we also break it down per activity per unit. That way, if the teachers need to hide or excuse certain things, they know what will be required and what they can skip over. So I always recommend that the teachers and students always start in the Getting Started folder. That way they have everything that they need before they get into their unit and activities. Within each unit, you will expect about 8 to 12 lessons. There are 3 quizzes and then a practice test and a unit test at the very end. The students typically have about a few lessons before they see their first quiz, but you will also see some projects, labs, or activities sprinkled throughout. And then for K-2 specifically, the lessons are going to be a little bit more spaced out. So you'll notice on the left-hand side here, we have a few different slides, 1 through 4. This just helps the students stay focused and not get too overwhelmed with too much content all at once. And then you'll notice there's the objectives, vocabulary when they first start. Then they can click through to the next section or slide when they're ready. And there are going to be some questions throughout the lessons to make sure that the student is understanding and mastering what's being taught. And you'll see here, this one is multiple choice. We do also add in drag and drop matching, fill in the blank. In this case, this one's just multiple choice. But the students in kindergarten and first grade specifically do have these headphones over on the right-hand side. So as they're learning the language, it'll help them kind of go through the lesson and it'll read aloud for them. For our other grade levels, we also offer this accessibility icon. This is our text-to-speech feature. So along with having the ability for students to highlight as they're going through, they can also use an answer eliminator. Text-to-speech will read it aloud, including the questions at the bottom of the lessons. They can translate, so the student can highlight over, click on that translation, and there's quite a bit of different languages that they can choose from. Some will also read aloud. There's a dictionary, a screen mask to help them stay focused, magnifier glass, and then some additional highlighting tools. So that's what a lesson would look like in a K-2 setting with the slides here on the side. I also did pull in an English 3 example. And you'll notice it's very similar in the layout. It still has that getting started folder with anything they need ahead of time. In this case, the English 3 does have a midterm and final. Our high school core courses, most of them will include those. But within the units themselves, the lessons are going to be a little bit more mature. So in this case, instead of the slides on the left, it's all on one page for the student. There are different sections, examples, some short videos or excerpts embedded in here. And then towards the bottom is where they'll have those questions. If you have any questions about any of the courses so far, please feel free to ask them in the chat in the bottom right corner. So that is our regular course of English 3 and first grade reading. Now we do also offer the KA version of 3rd through 12th grade core courses. So KA, it stands for knowledge assessment. Knowledge assessment courses are going to typically be used for credit recovery. However, it can be used if students are transferring in from another school and you'd like to gauge and see where their knowledge is on the content. You can also enroll them into these KA courses. The benefit of the KA course type is that there's a pretest at the top of each unit. So it lets the student test out unit by unit as long as they show mastery. So for example, if the student first takes the Unit 1 knowledge assessment, they receive a 70% or higher, they'll be automatically excused from that entire unit and then be pushed to Unit 2. If they were to fail that knowledge assessment, then it will require them to work in sequential order throughout that entire unit until they reach that next knowledge assessment pretest. These courses specifically do have their own default settings, just so the functionality of the auto excusing, how it works. For the regular course versions, I did see a question come in the chat earlier. We do offer full year and semester A and B. Semester A and B will be the first 5, and then semester B will be the last 10 units, or the last 5. We do not offer semester A and B for KA courses, just because these are typically testing out the full year's knowledge. And then the third course type we have is the accommodated version. So that'll be ACCOM for short. And whenever we're getting into the webinar and how to create courses, we'll show you how you can locate all of the different versions. But within here, the biggest difference is that in the quizzes and tests, there are a reduced amount of questions. So regular version quiz may have 15 to 20 quiz questions, but the accommodated version of the same the same course will have 5 questions. Same with practice and unit tests. The regular version is closer to 20 to 30 questions. And then in this, you may see the accommodated version have anywhere from 5 to 10. In the accommodated course, the content itself is going to remain the same and identical to the regular course. It's only going to be the quiz questions that are reduced down. So for accommodated courses, those are offered 3rd through 12th grade in a few different subjects, core and some electives as well. The KA are only offered 3rd through 12th grade core. And then the regular version, we do offer K through 12 courses. Perfect. So we are going to go ahead and get into the site. I'm going to get logged in here and walk through the admin pieces. So if you already have credentials to an admin, this is what it should look like when you get logged in. If you previously had credentials, and let's say you're also a teacher in here, you may have to switch over as long as you've been given the permissions to administrator. You'll see a Rubik's Cube in that top right corner, and that'll allow you to switch over from teacher to admin if you have both of those permissions. If you are missing the admin app, I would recommend reaching out to the rest of your admin team, or if you're a brand new admin this year, you can always reach out to us and we can help you set up your account. So this is the homepage of you as a platform administrator for BrightThinker. You'll automatically see the title of your school right when you get logged in, as well as a pie chart right underneath the active enrollment summary. So this is going to show you a pie chart as long as you have students enrolled at the time, and it'll give you a breakdown as to how they're doing across their enrollments. A popular report to pull throughout the year is this download and enrollment CSV right beneath the pie chart. This will show you all of your active enrollments, their score, progress, and how they're doing across all of their courses. Beneath there will be a list of all of the teachers you have enrolled in your site, how many student enrollments they each have, and some color-coded dots just letting you know how they're doing in their course. For any icons throughout the platform, you can always hover over and it'll kind of show you a short description as to what that means. Now, I do want to get started by showing you, if you click on your name in that top right corner, you will see you have access to your settings. That's where you can go in and assign your profile picture, or if you also have enrollments as a teacher, you can set up notification preferences. I'm going to click X and then go back into my name dropdown. This is also where you can change your color theme, so what the banner looks like and a few of the different button colors. Next on that dropdown, you do have the ability to change your password right from here as well, as long as you have your current password. And then later on, we will circle back and talk through the proxy. This option allows you to log in as a different user without needing their credentials. So we'll come back to that. But right from your home screen, if you'll look at the subdomains box, typically it's common for the school to just have one domain, but if your school specifically has 2 different campuses or subdomains, you can always click on subdomains to double check that you are adding all of your users and courses to their respective domain. So for example, if my training site sandbox, let's say, was my campus, I would recommend clicking on that domain ID first and then creating all of your users and courses right within this domain. If you're not sure, I would also suggest reaching out to your top admin to make sure that you're adding the users and courses when needed. But for today's example, I'm just going to affect the training site, which is my top level. You don't have subdomains, you can ignore that. That is just if you have additional campuses under there. So the first step is to click the three dots or the three lines in the top left corner. That's going to be your main menu. This is where you'll go to navigate to your users, courses, and then the enrollments are within both. So first I'm going to click onto that users tab. Right from here, you'll see any active current users that are in your site, whether they be admins, students, teachers, or even parents. If you're wanting to add a brand new user, you would click the plus button in the top right corner. Now, if you've used BrightThinker in the past and you're just a new administrator, you may want to filter and look for a certain user, just in case you're not creating them twice. So for example, if I am looking for my BrightThinker 1 student, you can also uncheck this active users only box to make sure and verify that they just haven't been inactive. We typically recommend just creating one user account. That way they can continue using their previous if they were ever inactivated. But if your student is brand new to BrightThinker, then you can use that plus button in the top right corner. And this is where you'll assign the username and all of the other details. So I'm going to go in and create test student 5 as the username. The username will depend if you're using single sign-on. If you are, you will want to make sure that that matches the attribute that is in your single sign-on. You can always reach out to us as well, and we can help you prior to you setting up accounts. We just want to make sure that it matches and it connects. Otherwise, if you're not using single sign-on of any kind, you can just assign the username here manually. Then add in first last name. The password is not automatically sent to the users, so when you're creating it, you'll want to make sure to save their credentials and send it over to them. For now, I'm going to add in a blanket password here of education. If the students are using single sign-on, you can leave that blank, or you can add in a placeholder in case that they ever need to log in to the platform itself. Beneath the external ID, or right beneath the password is the external ID. That's where you'll want to make sure to label your users. So in this case, I'm adding in a student, so I would label that student under the external ID. If you're adding in any other administrators, you'll want to add that in there as well. You can write in staff or teacher, depending on what role they have. But this will help us keep track of how many student users are actively in your site, and it will relate to your student usage. So we won't just all send you a bill and expect you to pay it. We'll always communicate with you, make sure that you've gone through and labeled everyone as you need to. But just so you're aware, anything that's labeled student or left blank, that's how we'll charge you for your student users. Beneath that is an option for you to add an email. It is not required. However, it is good to have, especially for staff members, if they need to reset their own passwords. The email will help that. Scrolling all of those details, the description can be left blank. It's just a label if you'd like to add any additional description about the user. But beneath all of that, there are accommodations and an IEP. So this is where you as an administrator can add on a few accommodations for this specific student. These accommodations that you place here do apply to the entire student across all of their courses. So we have a few different options. The first is never automatically assigning the minimum activity score or zeros to past due activities. This will be dependent on your specific school's academic settings. If that has been enabled or turned on at the course level, you can ignore that for the student. The next is automatically allowing retries for below passing activities, ignoring passwords or time limits. Always allow speech stream is referring to our text-to-speech, so the read aloud, translation, dictionary, all of those tools. If it's already turned on at the activity level, then you won't have to check this on. This is only if you ever were to turn it off. Then lastly, we have our most popular option is limiting the number of options that students see on multiple choice questions. So on multiple choice questions, they typically will see between 4 to 5, but you can limit it and have the student only see 2 across the board. Then right beneath those accommodations, you also have a place to add in the IEP. You can add in any notes in here for the teacher to see on their end. You could add in the file and upload it right within here. But this is only an administrative permission. So if teachers need accommodations to be added in, they will have to request them from you as an admin. Both of these accommodations and IEP are going to be seen on the teacher side through the gradebook and the people tab in a few different places. So in this case, I'm just going to create the student account, and then in the top right corner, I'll click create. Now that I've created that student, they will be listed right within my users tab. And you can use the filter to type in the student's name to make it a little bit easier to locate them. If you ever filter, you can always click the user ID to the left of their name, and that'll bring you back to the details. So if you ever forget to add in the external ID, you can go back and do that, or go back and add accommodations later on. From this view, you can also click on the 3 dots in the top right corner, and that will let you change password or reset the lockout for that user. Again, this doesn't apply if you're using single sign-on. The next thing that I wanted to discuss as a user, if you're creating any other administrators, so let's say this admin test that I've just created, although their external ID has a role in it, that doesn't give them any permissions. So for the students and teachers, they'll get their permissions when you enroll them into their courses. But for the administrators specifically, you will need to click on their user ID and grant them permissions. So after clicking on the admin's user ID, you'll click on the domain permissions tab in the very top left corner here. And this will let you either confirm that they currently have the Bright Thinker Platform Administrator role, which is the top level. Or if they don't have anything listed under here, you can go into the plus button and grant them the role of Bright Thinker Platform Administrator. This is the highest level role that we give access. It gives access to everything that you'll need without accidentally deleting the domain. The creation and managing of subscriptions, that's something we handle on our end. But platform admin, you can grant if they haven't already been granted that permission. And that will give them the same permissions as the top level platform admins have. So we do have reminders on all of these steps in our support materials just to remind you. But the next step that I'll walk through is inactivating users. So let's say you had a few students that aren't going to be returning this school year. You'll want to make sure to inactivate those. You can check on the box to the left of their names. And once you do so, then you can click on the three dots in the top right corner, and that'll give you the option to bulk update those three students. Anytime you see delete, we always warn to stay away from it. If you delete the student, their enrollment, progress, scores, and data also gets deleted from the platform. We always suggest to instead bulk update and inactivate their status. That way it can be reactivated, everything comes back, and it's restored. So the only option when bulk updating is to inactivate the users. You'll have to confirm and then update. In this case, I'll keep all of my students active. But that is how you'll clean up your users. So if you ever have anyone withdraw or students, parents, anybody no longer needs access, you'll want to make sure to inactivate them. Any questions over the users tab before I get into courses and enrollments? If you would, if you don't mind using your emojis, in the very bottom of the Google Meet, you'll see a little smiley face icon. You can just send me a reaction letting me know how you feel about it. That would be great. Thank you. Perfect. So going into the main menu, I'm going to move down to the courses and walk through those steps. So you may already have some current courses in here. If so, you will be able to see the start and end date. If they're active courses, they'll have the start and end date within the time range that you're in. So for example, if you were to uncheck the active courses only box at the very top here, that'll bring back any previous courses that you may have used in previous years. And you can sort through and review the courses that existed right within here. In this case, I'm going to keep it checked on for active courses. If you need to inactivate those courses from here, let's say they're last year's and you want to archive them, you can check on the boxes, very similar to the students, and then use the three dots to bulk update those. From here, it does let you change a few different things, but to inactivate the course, you'll want to make sure the end date is prior to today. So if the date has already, the end date has passed, that means it'll auto archive for you. Otherwise, you can go in and manually update those at any time. Checking on the boxes and bulk updating will also let you change what type of course it is, as well as the start date. But let's get to creating a brand new course. So in the top right corner, you'll also notice there's a plus button here. That's how you'll use what you'll use to create a brand new course. So from here, you'll have a few different options. You have create new, copy from your domain, or copy a shared course. More likely than not, you'll want to click copy a shared course. This ensures that you're selecting one of our Brightfinger courses, a fresh, latest version. And from here, you will have a list of all of our K through 12 courses with KA, the accommodated version, anything from right here. So I could scroll through the list. It does only filter the first 500. So if I'm not looking or finding what I'm looking for, I can also use the search bar. However, you will want to make sure to type out the full word or else it'll give you no results. So for example, if I'm looking for English 1, I can scroll through. And then this is also where you may see a COM, which means those accommodated reduced amount of questions. And then this is also where you'll either choose the full year course, semester A only, or semester B, depending on how you want to create those. I'm going to choose the regular version of English 1, but before I do that, I did want to show you, you can use the search bar to search for just accommodated courses. You can also type in KA for just the knowledge assessment or credit recovery. But in this case, I am just going to create the regular version full year of English 1. Copy from, I did want to let you know, if you were to create new, that'll come in blank without any curriculum, so it'll be completely blank course. Copy from your domain is copying any current course that you've used in the past. But copy a shared course is what we typically recommend if you're wanting a brand new course for the school year. The next step is to make sure to leave it on updates. It should say derivative child copy. That'll make sure that any setting changes flow down to your course, as well as any errors that are fixed by the curriculum team. We always suggest leaving it on updates. And then next, you have the opportunity to adjust the title of the course. So especially if you have multiple versions of the same course, let's say you have 3 different teachers teaching English 1, you'll want to make sure to add in their last name or some type of distinguisher. That way you can tell which course is theirs. So in this case, I'm going to add in my last name. And when you are going in to enroll students and teachers, it'll be a lot easier for you to tell which course is whose. And we also have some other scenarios where students are assigned to their own course. Typically, it is per teacher. But let us know if you have any questions on how you'd like to create your courses. Beneath there, we do have the external ID. This one is completely optional. As you're creating your courses, if you'd like to label them, let's say for the 25-26 school year, you can write that in. Only administrators see this, so this is also a great place. Let's say this was the accommodated version of English 1. You could remove the accommodated from the title and put it underneath the external ID. That way you as an administrator know it's an accommodated version, but then the student only sees the title, so they won't see that accom in the prefix. In this case, I am going to just label it for the 25-26 school year and then click next. Now, the last step is to select the type of course. This is referring to the pacing. So range will automatically come without any due dates. That allows the teachers the flexibility to assign their own due dates. They can leave it without due dates placed. The students just won't have a to-do list or a calendar to work from, but they can always work at their own pace through their activities. Otherwise, we also have the continuous option. This allows the system to set automatic and targeted due dates for each specific student. So if you have students that are more independent study, if they're working at their own pace, then continuous will automatically set targeted due dates for them, and they can work through their schedule that way. The thing with the continuous is the teachers won't have the ability to adjust those targeted due dates. They're just automatically placed by the system. Whereas the range, the teachers have the flexibility to move those around. Under there is term. This is also where it's just a label. You can write in spring term, full year, fall, anything that you'd like there, or just leave it blank. Now, since we're creating the course here, if you see start and end dates, these don't affect the access of the student. So I typically recommend leaving the start date as the day you're creating the course. When you're enrolling the student into the course, that's where you're giving them access to the course itself. So let's say the student isn't starting until August, I can still leave the start date as today. And then when I enroll them, that's where I'll choose August as the start date. The end date is going to be the last day of the school year or the semester. I typically recommend the end of the school year. And this end date is what determines that the course will be inactive. So upon the 5/21 date, that'll automatically archive from your courses. You'll still be able to get back to it if you need to, but that way you have a lot less cleanup at the end of the year. And Rebecca, I did see your message in here. We do have a recording at the top of our support materials over another admin webinar, but we'll make sure to add it in there as well. And then I did see your other question. Can you continue to have the end date for 3 weeks later? Oh, continuous. So for the continuous course, this will really just relate to the pacing. So if you want them to receive targeted due dates, that's the continuous. Range will just allow the teachers to assign their own due dates. But if you'd like the end date to be further out, that way you have a little bit more time to review the course, everything like that, you can always push it as far as you need to. With continuous, you'll also have the option to enroll students at different times and dates, and then their pacing will adjust and dependent on when they're enrolled. And actually, let me do a date in the future. 365, if you see that, you can just ignore it. That won't affect the course in any way. You have full ability to extend the course as long as you need. So I'm going to go ahead and click create. Because my start date was today, I now see my course listed right here. If I accidentally did the start date for a date in the future, it would technically be inactive. So it would require an extra step of unchecking the box and then searching for that course from here. But I actually have 2 versions of English 2 here. I'm going to retitle one, that way I don't get confused. So this is a good example of the same English course, but 2 different teachers being assigned to it. The teachers haven't been enrolled to that course yet. That's going to be our last step. So after you've created all of the courses that you need, then from here, you can always click on the course ID to the left of the title. And this will bring you back to the details. So you can re-edit the title, add in an external ID, or change what type of course it is. Now, we typically recommend that you select one of these at the beginning of the school year because it does affect student pacing. If you change it mid-year, then the student's pacing may adjust. So that is how we created a course. Now, since we're here, you will notice in the top left corner, there's an enrollments tab. Clicking on here will allow you to see any current enrollments that are in the course. You can also add new enrollments by using the plus button in the top right corner. So doing that will bring me to this new enrollment page where I can select which user I'd like to enroll in this course. And you'll notice you actually can add as many users to the course at once. And then you can type in the name right within here or use the lines off to the right to see the full list of users you've created. So it's important to know that you'll first need to create all of your users or reactivate them if they've been inactivated. Then you'll create your courses, and then lastly, enroll both the students and the teachers into their courses. So in this case, I'm going to enroll my Bright Thinker 1 student. Beneath there is going to be the role dropdown, so it automates the student. You'll want to leave it there if you're enrolling the student. And then right beneath that is start and end date. These dates when you're enrolling is what will determine the pacing for the student if they're in continuous. If they're in range, this will also just give them access to the course. So if I don't want my student to start until, let's say, 8/13, I'll want to make sure to add that start date there, and then the end date be the last day of the semester or school year, depending on which course you've selected. So this case, English 1 is the full year course. And so I'll just run it through 5/23 of next year. You can always go in and edit and extend the end date if you'd like to give your students an extra week or so. Just know that anytime you adjust the start and end date, it will readjust the pacing in a continuous course. And then I did want to highlight beneath those details, because we chose student as the role, it automatically shows me their permissions. You won't have to check anything extra. It automatically gives them everything they need. But now I'm going to go ahead and scroll up and create this student user. And so we can see that I have enrolled my Bright Thinker 1 student in this course. And I probably should have chosen a different student. It looks like they have been double enrolled in this course. But just as an example, let's say this Bright Thinker 3 student, if I made a mistake or wanted to edit the start and end date or role, you can click on the enrollment ID to the left. And this lets you change anything that you need to. You can go back. You can also do that in bulk. So you can select multiple users at once. And then in the top right corner, you'll select those 3 dots to, again, bulk update. And then you can select what you'd like to change here. Whether it be the status, active is what means they have access as long as their start and end dates are active. We also recommend inactivating enrollments if you want to cut off access regardless of their end date. But from here, you'll want to make sure that both a teacher and then their students are all enrolled into the course. And then this is how long they'll have access to that course for. Teachers will always have a little bit of early access to their course, but the students will only see it upon that start date. So I did walk through one of the ways that you can enroll, which again was clicking on the course ID and then clicking over to the enrollments tab, and then using that plus button to add both the teacher and student. Depending on how your courses and students will be set up, I also like to suggest going into your users tab with your main menu. You can also enroll by user. So let's say for this Debbie student I have here, I can click on their user ID, and then that will also give me the enrollments tab in the top left corner. From this view, I can see all of the courses this one student's enrolled in, or I can add in new ones using that plus button. The benefit of this is that you're focusing on one student at a time. You can add in multiple courses to that one user. You'll just want to make sure that the role, start and end dates are what they need to be, and then create that enrollment. If you choose to do it by user instead of course, then I recommend doing the students and then lastly going back and enrolling the teachers as well. So let's say Sarah needs to be enrolled in all of those courses. I'll also go to the enrollments and use that plus button to change that role to teacher. So we do have about 14 more minutes left for our webinar today. I wanted to check in and see how everybody was doing. If you could send me a reaction. Perfect, thank you. So we walked through users, courses, and enrollments. I did want to highlight a few things off of our main menu here. Actually, before I leave the users, I did remember that I only showed you how to add in individual users, but we also have a user import template file in our support materials, and I'll go back and show you exactly where that's at. But that's where you'll see the import. If you click on the triple dots, you can import that CSV file as long as you've entered everything in, and that is a quick way of adding in everybody all at once. You'll just want to make sure that the user you're creating don't already exist. So going back into the main menu, We do have a reports tab right within here. As an administrator, you'll have quite a bit of report options. One of the most popular is the student performance by domain. It's pretty similar to the report from the very home page beneath the pie chart, but this one is also a very popular one. We do offer quite a bit of reports, so if you ever need help looking for a specific one, you can submit a help ticket and we'd be happy to guide you in finding exactly what you need. Underneath the reports is announcements. I'm going to skip over that and come back later on. But beneath there is Bright Thinker support materials. That is a quick link to your resource site. So again, if you don't already have your credentials, we'll make sure to show you exactly how to get here. You can submit a survey and then we can provide those. But this is where, so at the very top, we had a question earlier. We have all of our, a recording of our earlier basic admin webinar. Aside from that, there's also those other admin resources with a full overview video. And then right within here is actually the user import template. So just kind of clicking in here, you can download it right from here, and we show you an example of what is needed in each column, that way, and steps on how to import it in. Going back into the main menu of the site, beneath that support materials is your Bright Thinker customer support tab. That will also navigate you to a new window. And this is where you can submit a help ticket, report any issues or feedback. So if you're setting up your courses and you have a quick question, something specific to your school, you can always come in here and give us a little bit of information as to what you need help with and submit to our team. And we are pretty quick about responding back to you. Our average response time is about 1 to 3 hours. And the longest time it'll take us for an initial response is 24 hours. We also have some more reports right within your main menu. The teachers will have a similar report option, but you will have the ability to pull quite a bit more on this side. Our 3 most popular are going to be our student daily activity, our progress, and the grade details. We do have these examples in the support materials, and I'll actually show you those. So at the very bottom of the support materials, we'll have a reports folder. The grade details is a really great report if you want to see a detail of each activity along with the score submitted and due date, if there is one. And this lets you pull for one student across all of their courses or one course and all students within there. The progress report is more of an overview, so it shows you each course the students enrolled in, enrollment period, and then grade in progress. And then lastly, we have the student daily activity report. And this one is really great because it helps track exactly where students are spending their time. So even if they're logged into the platform and they're not working in a lesson, this activity report will only track if they're actually working in their lessons, when they started, their end time, and how long they were in there for. And you can see this example here is pulling for one student, and it shows each day which courses they were working in. And these reports are also available to teachers. You will have a little bit more reports on the admin side since you have access to all courses, all users. But these 3 main ones are available on the teacher side as well. Then lastly, going back into the main menu, the administrators won't have access to these student resources, but just to make you aware of them, on the teacher and student side, they will have this tab where they can review documents and videos So if they're brand new to Bright Thinker, the student app overview video is a really great one to get them started. And they'll always have that throughout the school year. So if they need to watch a video, they can be directed there. Lastly, I'm going to open up the main menu and go back to the home page, which is where we first logged in, the admin app. At the very top tabs, you'll see the announcements. The announcements is where you can go in and post site-wide announcements. So there is a plus button in the very top right corner to post a new announcement, and this gets sent to all students and all teachers under your domain. If you do have multiple domains, then you can post domain-wide as well, but it allows you to add in links. You can just type out your announcement, provide videos, images, and customize it however you need to. I'm going to exit out of here, and then you can always go back in and delete current announcements or just review them right from here. Two tabs over, we do have the resources tab. So, or the features tab. The features tab, I do like to make everybody aware. At the very bottom, we do have a couple that we like to make you aware of. One of them is the enable inbox. So this is still in beta. They're testing it out as far as the LMS, but they have added in an inbox that you can turn on if you'd like students and teachers to communicate with each other within the platform. We do have a video walking through the inbox specifically. If you'd like to learn a little bit more, you can look in our support materials. Right above that, we also have the student due date scheduler. So this is automatically turned on, but if you'd like to turn it off, you can just toggle. We typically see a little bit more control given to the students if this is left on. It allows them to go in and select which days of the week they'd like their due dates to be placed on. So especially if they're in a continuous course, if the student only wants to work Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, they can adjust that within their calendar, and then that'll repaste them. So if you'd like to remove that entirely, then you can just toggle that off. Over on the right side, it's also enabling student blackout dates. Blackout dates are like if the student is going on their own personal trip, they can add it in and it'll also ignore due dates being placed on that blackout date. But if those aren't a concern to you, you can definitely leave them on and it'll give the students a little bit more flexibility on how their course is paced out for them. And I see your question, how to update the school-wide calendar. That is a great segue, and that's my next topic. So since I clicked over to features, I'm going to have to click back onto the domain tab. Once you're here on the home page, once again, in the top right corner, you'll have the 3 dots, and that's how you can get into your domain settings. The domain settings I recommend revisiting each year just because it does have the blackout dates in here to make sure that your holidays are updated before this start of each school year. At the very top, it does have authentication, password policy. So it will give you a few different fields to change. Let's say the unsuccessful login attempts before students are locked out. I know by default it's set to 7. We've increased it in our training site here. But you're welcome to change the minutes until the lockout expires. So it's helpful if, let's say, a student keeps getting locked out. You can always remove the minutes or lower it if you want the students to be able to try again a lot quicker. Over on the right-hand side, we have some avatars. These are automatically added in by the platform or by our curriculum team, so the students can choose these from their profile picture. But at the bottom, you can also choose to add in your own mascot or icon of your choosing. And that will allow the students to choose anything from this list. And then right beneath there is those blackout dates. So if you have those holidays, then you can click add at the very bottom, add those in individually. That way your students aren't required to complete during those days. They will still be able to if they need to. They just won't be required to. And these blackout dates are specifically helpful for continuous courses. As the system is automatically placing those due dates, it'll consider these before placing those. It's really important to make sure to add in the blackout dates at the beginning of the school year, or else the pacing will adjust for the students mid-year. So I recommend adding those blackout dates as soon as you're able to before students gain access. And then scrolling down, there's a few more options right within here. If you have any second language learners, then you can go in here under language and allow them to select a few different languages as far as navigation. They'll be able to click on their name in the top right corner and select which language they want the platform to be translated into. And then lastly, there are some additional student options in the very bottom where you can allow the students a few different permissions and customizing your theme. You'll always want to make sure to save any changes you've made in the top right corner and then refresh your browser. But we are at the end of our webinar today. Thank you so much for joining. I see that Alex has already posted in the link for the survey. So if you'd like to complete that survey, we'll give you a certification, as well as if you have any questions, you can add them into the survey and we'd be happy to help you. But thank you for joining us today.